Crouch. Bind. Set.
Joe presents the House of Rugby.
Have you missed us? I sincerely hope so. But can I just say, it is a great pleasure to be back with a summer edition of House of Rugby, brought to you by Joe. And it's a very, very nice pleasure to have with us one of the most famous names in rugby, alongside to the Hoff.
What? I thought it was me you were talking about.
No, definitely not talking about you. It is a very warm welcome to not one, but two Lynagh. The King and the Prince. One man who's been there, done it, got the T-shirt. And I think pretty much everything else in the game. Michael, very nice to have you alongside.
It's good to be here.
And a man who's off to go and do it, hopefully. Lewis Lynagh. Very good to have you alongside as well. I'm not sure if you've seen this show before, but it's a rugby show that doesn't talk a lot about rugby, but it likes to explore and tour. And I think there is a fascinating story tonight with the two of you here, father and son combo. But just to sort of, your career, which is, I mean, one of the more remarkable in the game. We talk often about those who leave the game without being able to sort of say they've achieved it all. You have done exactly that. You've achieved a huge amount after playing as well. But also would love to find out from you, Lewis, what life is like as you get set to embark on what looks a very promising career. Before we get into it all, though, what were you doing last night?
Oh, well, I had my school prom, which was a very fun evening, I have to say. That was just very fun even to see all my friends again before everyone goes off, all my mates interrailing, and then I'm in pre-season with Quins.
Did you organise a white limo, pick your bird up and give her one of them roses that comes in a plastic box?
No, it wasn't that inventive, sadly. It was just
not that corny, man.
No, I'm not.
Surely that's how the prom operates.
Did you?
Yeah.
I never had a prom. We didn't have any of that stuff back in the day. You didn't have a prom, did you?
No, we had a formal.
You just had a fire around a barrel somewhere in Australia.
On the beach.
Yeah.
No,
On the
Michael
beach.
was a white tie through and through.
Oh, right. Okay.
Tails.
No, we had a formal, and I did a bit of that. You go and pick up your date, and in a black tie, and give the flowers, and the dad of the
Gives
your
you a
date
death shake.
gives you the
Firm
behave,
handshake.
my son, and bring her home.
Well, I
and
didn't have
do
any of
some
that.
hour.
Maybe because I didn't have any birds to take. No, I didn't. I thought, did people not organise limos?
When you expelled
we were
by
I
the
wasn't,
time your
Alex.
prom came along.
No, I wasn't actually. I'm now welcome back with open arms. Actually, one of my schools I opened a building, so put that in your posh little pipe and smoke it.
I will do, thank you. How are you feeling this morning?
No, fine.
Yeah.
I didn't do too
True
much.
pro already?
Yeah, no, I'm used to it. You know, but hopefully not going to get too much of that in the rugby scene. But I'm prepared for it.
When does it all start with Quins?
8th of July is the start of pre-season, but I've been working towards that already.
In the gym? Have you got people? You obviously got very good nous alongside. Do you listen to the old man and the advice that he gives you? Or?
Once in a while.
Probably not about the gym. That's
No,
for sure.
Yes, very true.
Yeah.
Don't know where the front door is to a gym.
Quite right too. But I mean, do you feel you're getting into it now?
Yeah, no, it's becoming more of a real thing. I remember before my last exam, I was in the study centre and I got added to the Quins group chat. And and then all my friends on our own group chat on the new academy graduate group chat, they all said this is all getting a bit too real now.
Wow.
So
have you piped up yet? Have you told anyone where to start?
Not going
Did
to.
you have any entry level stuff you had to do?
Not
like
yet.
Submit something.
That'll come.
Because you know what happens. There's a great time, a great story at Wasps where we used to get into a group, and any new players would have to edge Shervington would always ask for a penis photo.
Right.
Right, but obviously none of us ever did that. I don't know why he asked that. He's an interesting character. But you had to submit something, some video or do something, and this guy completely misread the situation and put a picture of a cute photo of a little dog through a piece of bread. And that's what he submitted. Everyone was so mortified. And that kid, 7 years later, is still known as Bread Dog. So I'm telling you now that if you get it wrong, you could permanently scar yourself for life.
You've got a very wise man alongside, though.
Yeah.
Proud dad?
Very, yes, and proud of the other two as well.
Absolutely,
We've got two. Lewis has got two younger brothers, but
Tom and Nicky.
yeah. So far he's doing very well, and very proud of him.
Have you been involved in the process of getting him to this point in time, or have you just said you sorted out?
No, I'm of the strong belief. My wife and I have a strong belief that we let them be kids.
Yeah.
We knew from very pretty early age that he had some talent at not just rugby, but mainly rugby, but just let him be and let him learn. And I didn't coach him or anything like that. I'd help him when he got a little bit older and could understand a little bit more. But in the underage, under 10s, those sort of things, it was about going out on a Sunday morning and having a bit of fun, and making sure that he wanted to go back and not putting too much pressure on him. He had enough of that, with his name and all that sort of thing. So, and now he's got a bit older and things starting to get a little bit more serious. he's got very good advice through his coaches at both at school and at Quins Academy, and now at Quins. And so he's getting a lot of good advice from all that. But I try and chip in every now and then, and whether he listens or not's another thing. But when it gets reinforced by some of the coaches, he goes, "Oh, that Nick Evans knows what he's talking about." Says the same thing as I do probably, but
it's a well-worn path, that father-son dynamic. Is the name a thing? Have you noticed that? Do people say "Are you?" or "Your dad was?" or things like that?
More of in a jokey way, to be honest. They're like, "Who's your dad?" and stuff. But I don't really pay too much attention to that sort of thing. I try not to, and it's like there's that odd occasion, like for a school game, people will tell other people in the team like, "Oh, that Lynagh kid didn't play so well." So it's like,
so you've got to play to expectations.
Yeah, well, I don't at school level. It wasn't really part on my mind. I just went out there and had fun with my mates, but it's just it will become a thing, but I try not to get it into the forefront of my mind. It's more.
I've heard a few things on the sideline where, when during winter and you've got a hat on and it's cold and nobody sort of recognises you on the sideline, you hear opposition sort of people, "Oh, that's Lynagh's son over there," and so he's been noticed, but I ask them all about it, and if it ever becomes a problem, talk to me. But it hasn't been, and they've dealt with it all pretty well. Generally, over the time, they've been pretty relaxed about it, and all the kids in the team that they've played in have been pretty good about it, I would think. And it's up to them to just prove themselves, really.
I remember interviewing you at 16. He wears a lot more comfortably with a lot more composure than you did back then.
Did I?
You were a very overexcited school kid in England kit.
I can imagine I probably was, actually. Maybe it was just meeting someone so posh like yourself.
Do you think? There might have been an element of that to it.
Yeah. I think when I met you when I was 16, you must have been, I don't know,
17.
17. I would have thought, oh my goodness, that guy from the TV adverts, Mr. Muscle, they've given him a job and he's interviewing me with his skinny little setup.
Good. I've missed you. I have genuinely missed you. I have. Your chat has definitely waned.
I've been in Fiji, just drinking kava and relaxing.
One of the things I sort of want to explore with you is sort of what your ambitions are. So you're a fullback.
Yes. Yeah.
Signed into the squad. So at the moment under Mike Brown, but hopefully going to squeeze Mike out of the squad. That'll sit comfortably.
There's a few
with him.
As well.
There's a few others as well. But we'll see what happens.
Wait until Brownie sees this, and then
he'll welcome you with open arms.
Because he'll shake your hand, give you a hug off the field, be really nice. And as soon as he crosses that whitewash for training or anything else like that, he'll go completely mad.
What sort of conversations have you had? What sort of involvement have you had with the first team squad?
Well, I've played 2 A-League games over the last year. I played about 20 minutes against Saracens in October, and that was really cool to I played against the Saracens team, had Joel Kapoku and Petrus Duplessis and Manu Vinopola, and it was weird to sit behind the defence and have actually people tackling for once, but the
doesn't happen at schoolboy level.
No, and collisions that were happening, I felt sorry for the forwards because
he loves it. It's all he can do.
Yeah. That was quite an interesting one because I was in a meeting at work, and Isabella, it was a Monday, and Isabella, my wife, was urgently ringing, and I'm going, okay, I've got to go and take this call, and she said, Harlequins has rung, they want to talk to you and ask permission if Lewis can come out of school and go and play in the A team.
A-League.
He was 17, and I rang the guy at Quins and said, what's going on? He said, oh no.
It was Tom Williams.
Yeah. And he just basically said, oh no, it's just for experience. He'll just come over and sit on the bench. He won't get on. It'll be a last resort. Okay, that's great. So Tom went and picked him up from school, took him home, got his boots and drove him over to Saracens, and he joined the team. And I went over to watch. And of course, with a half an hour to go, on goes Lewis straight away, first reserve. On you go. And I go, oh God. Anyway, you got away with it, didn't you?
Yeah, no, it was pretty.
Are you someone who's calm and composed, and do you take all this in your stride, or are you there thinking?
I seem to be when I talk, but inside I'm very nervous, but I'm quite accustomed to that. Even for school, I get nervous before school games, but I feel that as a good thing. Yeah. If I'm not nervous for a game, it won't really work out for me. So nice. I think it'll just, if the nerves will help me play better and make me more aware of the situation.
Yeah.
But after that game, you were pretty excited. He played well and got through it. And but I wouldn't like to go through that every week.
Are you a good spectator?
Yes, pretty good, but I'm a bit like Lewis. I get very nervous, but I don't show it or anything like that. And I'm not very outward. I don't yell out and carry on.
And you happy sitting in amongst all the other fans and parents, or do you like to watch from the end? You find those parents, don't you, who sort of like to
He's
go
in the shade. Every time my friends have told me, "Oh yeah, my dad was looking for your dad under the tree with his umbrella and hat
so I tend
on
to stay
stage
sort of to myself pretty much.
Yeah.
Because I hear comments and things like that, and it just sort of sometimes wears a little thin, so I just walk away. And,
We had a very nice lunch together, your dad and I, a few weeks ago, and he very sweetly sent a couple of videos because we were talking about your career, and I can get away with saying that, can't I?
What videos?
Just you in action. I don't want this to be a kind of hype, but there's some good highlights reels coming in there, and I'm sure there'll be some very soon on interweb as well. Yeah. What kind of a fullback are you? Who are the guys that you've looked up to? What kind of a player would you like to be?
I'd like to develop my kicking game more, that's for sure.
I can't think where you might be able to find some advice.
His younger brother is who he looks to. He doesn't listen to me.
Yeah, no. But
Tom's is he a 9, isn't he?
10.
No, he's 10. Goal kicking 10.
Goal kicking 10, that's what you said.
I'm more of a, right now, more running threat and passing, but like I'm developing my kicking at the moment. But I know what fullback I'd look up to, just like make my own path, really.
Good answer. It's nice to talk to people before they've been through media training, isn't it?
It is nice, yeah.
It's really fresh.
Yeah. I always think, to be fair, if anyone ever asked me, is, giving advice to kind of younger players, the one thing I always think is obviously you always want to be yourself. But it's always good to find somebody that does it as you would want to do it and watch them. Like I learnt more playing rugby, when watching Rich McCaw play and sitting and watching hours of him play and watching Pocock play and Hooper play and even there were guys that were in my, peer group or age group or whatever, I would sit and watch them and get the analysis people at Wasps, Northampton, whoever it was, England, to send me all the clips. Even I get clips of Billy or Sam Warburton or all these kind of things. My hard drives are kind of full of these things, just amongst other things.
And a few other things.
If you ask my dad to forward some clips of me in action, you might get something very different. Are they highlight reels?
Family show,
sort of highlights. And I find that really useful. So I think it's always good. You always want to look at other people, always want to be your own person. But I think one of the best pieces of advice, I always say it to younger players, is go into world scene and see who does it well and watch those clips. I'm sure you do it already, but I just think it's you get coached all the time, especially in this country. I think there's a danger of you get overcoached. And I think it's interesting with what you were saying about being really encouraging, give advice when needed, but let them find their own path. Equally, I found I learnt more by actually watching a player go and play it. And I'm not even talking about the execution of his skills. I'm talking about his demeanour, the way he deals with mistakes, the way he applies himself. Even just with Joe Worsley, I spent hours watching him tackle, hours and hours and hours, and I had on my iPad.
That'd be pretty exciting.
Yeah, my iPad, of him tackling and trying to work out how he did it, and honestly breaking it down and realising that everything that he did and why he was such a good tackler was where he put his feet and how close he got his feet in that moment of epiphany, where coaches are always talking about using your shoulder or keeping your head in tight. Actually, the secret to tackling is where you put your feet. And me learning that and going away with that and then speaking to other people, and that was a massive deal for me. So those little things I think are really kind of quite important.
It's very true. Yeah, and I when I first started back in many years ago, I got asked a similar question: who are your heroes? And I was very lucky when I was playing that. When I started playing as an 18-year-old for Queensland and whatever, I had Paul McLean, who was the sort of fly half, and Mark Ella in New South Wales. And Paul was very good at tactically and operating the team and driving the team and all that sort of thing, where Mark was just a brilliant attacking player. Yeah. And so what I did was very similar. They'd say, well, who do you want to emulate? And I said, well, I'll take the best out of Paul, that sort of tactical awareness and his kicking and all that sort of thing and driving the team forward, and Mark's brilliance in attack. And you put those two together and you've got a complete fly half. So if I could get close to that was my sort of aim. Yeah. And I was lucky enough to play with both of them, but I also played in '84 in Grand Slam Tour. I was centre to Mark. And so we complemented each other very well because he had skills that I didn't, and I had skills that he didn't, and we worked very well together, but I learned a hell of a lot from him.
That leads us on really nicely. So I'm not going to do it justice, but I'm going to we talk about rugby CVs. We talk a lot about rugby CVs. Yeah. 84 Grand Slam winner. 91 World Cup winner, Super Rugby winner of the Reds. Italian League, what's the Italian League called?
Championship
with Treviso, Sarries Galactica, and obviously Tetley Bitter Cup. Since then, successful businessman.
I was in the crowd for that game.
Were you really?
Yeah.
Because the Wasps fan.
Yeah, and I turned up, and you were on fire that day, weren't you?
Yeah, we played well.
No,
it was
you
our last game.
went real mega, didn't you?
Yeah.
So lovely shot of you with the fez.
Yeah, and I remember that we came to the game, and I was obviously still at school, and we'd been supporting Wasps, and there was this. A couple of South Africans who were supporting Sarries at the time, and we've been and we were getting into them all the time about Wasps are going to win, blah, 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 you know, the mighty Wasps. And obviously, I'd only ever watched Wasps play, so I didn't know, you know, I obviously knew who Michael was and all the stuff he'd achieved.
Sarah
but I didn't,
Payne,
you know, I didn't, but I knew all the players were, but I didn't know their pedigree for that season. And then when the wheels started coming off and they were on fire, this one South African fan had a programme and he kept leaning over it. And obviously, I was only at 14, 15, and he was like a friend of a friend's dad, and he was whacking me on the head with it. And I still think about every time someone mentions that Tetley Bitter Cup, I think of this guy just battering me, go, come on. And I'm thinking of
irritant even at the age of 14.
Yeah.
Gosh.
So he was getting into me, and I got no revenge, but I think about it every day, and whenever I ever see him, I'm going to kick him right in the
sorry
nuts.
about that.
No, it's fine, but you were on fire. It was a pleasure to watch.
It was a good game.
Successful businessman. Currently managing director of the Dow Jones EMEA.
Yes.
Which is, I imagine, a walk in the park. There's quite a lot of pressure around that. Stroke survivor.
Yes.
Best-selling autobiography. Off the back of that as
Best-selling, I don't know about
well, let's go with it.
Not like Mr. Haskell beside me.
Well, he has to write 1,000 books to get the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
Mates with Mick Jagger. What I love about it, your biopics, Mates with Mick Jagger, and the picture of you sitting in the pit on your surfboard as well. Can you as well?
Yes.
I mean, as CVs go, and there'll be 1,000 other things, Dan, obviously, you know, husband, etc. But I mean, we could do an hour on each of those. But just taking the rugby first of all, how do you reflect on your career?
Well, obviously, when you read it out like that, it sounds pretty good. I think that's
actually, pretty good.
I was a cricketer at school.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to do. And I played 4 years in the first 11 at cricket, and I wanted to be a cricketer. And rugby, I played under 13 and under 14 B team rugby. And it was basically, I was just waiting around for summer to come.
Were you always a fly half centre, or did you?
No,
you didn't start in the front row and make your way up?
At the school I went to in Brisbane, from grade 7, so 12-year-olds, to 13, our class numbers doubled.
Right.
So we went into senior school.
Is that because the cricket, interesting enough, was because when I went over to Australia, obviously my only experience of it was through rugby, but actually Australian Aussie rules and cricket are the number one sports over there. You don't know that over here. You kind of had that perspective. Anyone who likes rugby thinks what a powerhouse Australia have been in the big rivalry between England and Australia. When you get there, you find out that most people want to be cricketers.
Well, cricket is a number one sport
Rugby
in the
league
summer. It's the only sport. Whereas rugby was resigned only to, say, Brisbane and New South Wales. And rugby league were in those territories as well, but Australian rules was Australia-wide. But it's not international. And it depended a lot at the time what school you went to and what you played. I started off playing rugby league down the Gold Coast and football, soccer, and then went up to Brisbane with the family, and the school played rugby, and that's what I did. But I wasn't particularly good at it, I didn't think. And when we went up to 13, we did a trial match, trial games. It was 4 teams, and I got picked in a pretty weak team. And I spent the afternoon covering tackles, and the coach had obviously read somewhere in a manual that covering tackles was made by number 8s. Well, back in the day they were. And he said, right, you're a number 8. I went, I'm not a number 8. And I hated it. And he made me pack in the number 8. And so I was in Bs, 13 Bs. Anyway, from 14 Bs, I went to firsts and at 10. It just happened. I don't know how, but it did. And
as an 8?
No, as a 10. The B team coaches used to play me as a 10 because
you don't get number 8 with that beautiful hair, and then when he's doing his nails and everything else like that, you're never going to.
So anyway, it went from that, and then I got picked to go on the Australian Schoolboys tour to here in 81, 82, and that was my first summer out of school because we finished summer in November, December. Yeah, that's when I would have started playing cricket again, but I was over here playing rugby. Went back from the team, from the Australian Schoolboys, and literally was picked in the Queensland Open team after 2 senior club games, and that was it.
Wow! And did
never played cricket again.
You nearly broke your collarbone. You broke your collarbone before the tour as well.
Yeah. So I had to. I had to get through that. Yeah. But,
and what's interesting is asking you as to how comfortable. Did you always feel to the manner born? In that sort of, did you feel very, very comfortable at that level? I mean, because it came thick and fast very quickly.
Yeah. So I was at that time. I was schoolboys would come back and they'd go in to play under 19s with their mates at a club.
Yeah.
I went to university, and you just play on the weekends with your mates. I went up into first grade.
Yeah.
So my first game was against Souths, and my opposite number was Andrew Slack, who was the Australian captain at the time. And there were some pretty big guys running around. And it was my first ever game in grade. And then 2 games later, I was playing for Queensland against Wairarapa Bush from New Zealand. And I was the only Queensland player out of the 21 in those days that hadn't played for Australia. And it was pretty daunting, but it was pretty good fun. And the next week wasn't so much. Well, the next 2 weeks weren't so good. We went down and got thrashed by New South Wales. Yeah. And that was, welcome to the big time. And then we played a New Zealand 15 for the Queensland Centenary game. And that was, oh gosh, I really...
Who can you remember who would have been in that 15?
Yes, it was probably Andy Dalton, Andy Hayden, Murray Mexted, Dave Loveridge, you name it. Yeah. It was a big... It was the All Blacks, basically. Wow. And I just went, whew.
That sticks hairs on the chest.
Put me back to the under 18s.
Yeah, exactly.
But so, and went on a tour to New Zealand and Fiji and learnt, because Paul went to fullback. Roger Gould at the time was over in Italy or something. He came back late. I played 4 games. And then Paul came back up, Paul McLean came up to 10, and I went to the bench, which actually suited me, because I've had a bit of taste. I knew where I had to get to. And then I played club season that year, and it went very well. And second season was tough, second season syndrome. And then 84 happened, and away you go.
Away you go. Knowing as you do, I can't imagine you have a sort of dusty collection of old videos, but have you seen a lot of your dad? Any of your dads? Some of your dads?
They're all on beta.
They're all beta, exactly.
There's about 2 videos on YouTube, about 1 minute long. One's of him doing a drop goal, and the other one was a highlight of the 84 tour or something, but that's about it. But we watched the 91 final, which is...
I've got that on VHS.
Of course I have. That's quite an interesting story, because I'd never watched it. I'd never watched the 91 final. For various reasons. It wasn't a particularly good game.
It wasn't a cracker, was it?
And I got to the point where I hadn't watched it after 6 months, and I thought, you know what, I'll wait until I have something really... is important, right? So it was last year, was it?
No,
the year before,
several years
2
ago.
years ago. Mum and Dad were over, and I thought, the boys are old enough to understand now, and I thought, you know what? Tomorrow night, I announced it at dinner, tomorrow night, Friday night, we're all going to sit down, we'll open a nice bottle of wine, and we're all going to watch the 91 World Cup final. And they're all going, do we have to? Do we have to? And so we did, and it was actually quite special, because I'd never watched it.
Yeah.
And seen highlights and stuff, but there was a kick early on, and there's a big build-up. It's 5 minutes into the game and all that sort of thing. The commentators, well, this will see how nervous Lynagh is and blah, blah, blah. And these guys are going, oh, Dad, did you get it? And I said, I honestly don't remember.
Really? You don't remember people's
And basically
names,
I shanked it right. And they all go, oh, God, how embarrassing.
The telling you should have invited round is Alex, is your biggest fan.
I'd have told you all about it.
Loved it. He
I cried.
Blow-by-blow play, tell you when he got over-emotional, he would have known everything. The kids are like, Dad, like texting their missus going, oh, my God, Dad's seeing a full demonstration.
I cried after the 91 one.
Cool. She did.
Yeah, sorry,
she did.
That's right.
You've made me cry many times since.
Sorry. Cool. But it's actually a really nice thing to do, and I think it was you that came in afterwards and said, "Oh, that was nice."
Yeah.
Shit game, but it was nice.
That was me, Dad. Can I have more pocket money? How much did you like the game? Loads. There's 20 quid. Thank you, Dad.
Did you get a medal back then?
Yeah, it's about that big.
Really?
Yeah, and I've got it at home.
Sock drawer? Or?
It's in a shoebox.
No, that's the thing. Like when we moved house recently, in the attic, he had all his old shirts and medals and awards, and the movers were coming in, and Dad had put in stuff in the pile he didn't want, and it's all old shirts and memorabilia, and the movers came up and were like, should we take this, or do we throw it away? And you throw away about...
No, I don't gave away a lot of stuff.
3/4 of the stuff.
Yeah.
That could have given a Christmas present for life.
God.
I would have had a bit of kit. I mean, I'm not sure it would have fitted. Probably a bit...
Stash.
No, but it's sort of, there was a lot of socks and ties and things like that. But I've kept the main
Look at him.
Full uniform.
Yeah, I love that. Do you keep... I mean, medal obviously is one treasure possession. Have you got any other bits and bobs? First cap?
Caps,
I've got caps. I've got all that. Yeah, and I've got the 4 Grand Slam jerseys and the Barbarians from that tour all together. I've got actually a couple of Christmases ago. I couldn't think of what to get the boys, so I actually got my first Australian jumper. and I got the World Cup winning jumper and what was the other one?
The Ireland
final one.
Yeah.
And got them framed and just put a little plaque on the bottom what they were and just put them in a frame. And I said to Isabella, wrap them up and don't tell me which one, because I didn't want to choose.
Yeah.
So then that was their Christmas present. So they've all got one of those hanging on the roof.
That's very cool. Where is it hanging above the bed?
Lewis has sold his already.
Gets
you a night out.
Yeah. He says he didn't tell what name to put, but I got the final one.
Did you?
Yeah.
I didn't.
Favourite? What are you saying is your favourite?
Yeah, exactly. Lucky
Can me and Alex come for Christmas next year? We can't remember.
You can cook the turkey on the
barbecue.
barbecue.
On the barbecue, on the full Traeger mode.
Absolutely. Let's bounce through something to 84.
This is you guys.
No, but Michael, this is
I feel like I'm James Haskell here.
Yeah, exactly. Haskell, it's very nice for him to sit and listen for once.
Thanks, mate. Thank you.
A lot of people talk about that 84 side as one of the greatest of all sides.
It was because the 81-82 tour, the full Wallaby tour, while I was there on a schoolboys mode, that was sort of promoted as Australia's great chance to do the Grand Slam. We'd never done it before. There's not many teams that have, and 84, there was some guys left over from that. They were a little bit further on. They didn't do so well in 82, 81, 82. And we just seemed to be a good bunch of guys, you know.
Yeah.
We had a good time and we played really good rugby, and Alan Jones was the coach, and he brought Bob Dwyer was the coach before that, and he was pretty relaxed about things, and Ella's just, you're brilliant, go and do it. And it didn't really work that well. And Alan sort of changed the whole thing and became, the whole preparation, like watching videos of the opposition.
Yeah.
Never done that before. It sounds strange now. But we did, and he worked out, the 4 countries and what they were good at. For example, Scotland was very good, ball on the ground, towing it through muddy conditions, all that sort of thing. So 2 weeks beforehand, we'd practice, or that whole tour, we'd practice it. Ball on the ground, going backwards, diving on it, getting up, all that sort of simple stuff. It sounds simple now, but back then it was quite revolutionary. And so by the time it came to Scotland, and also he did things like on the Friday, it was rest day.
Yeah.
Did nothing. Whereas in the past, it'd be, God, we're playing France tomorrow. That Blanco is pretty good. How are we going to defend him? And we'd spend 3 hours on the pitch on Friday working out our defence patterns, how to stop Blanco. But we'd done all that.
Yeah.
And so we had a rest day. By the time Saturday comes around, we're ready to go. Sounds obvious now because everybody does it. But back then it was really new. So we did that and we worked really hard. But we just had a very, very good team. And the more the momentum happened, the better we got, and just came together. We were very lucky. 91 was the same. Bob was back coaching then, and he'd changed a lot and improved a lot and gone on from where Alan was. And once again, we just had a team that was mature. We had mature guys like Nick and Campo and myself and Poido and those sort of Simon Poidevin, to name a few. And then we had these young guys called Horan and Little and Kearns and these sort of guys who were full of puppy enthusiasm.
Willie Fangawi.
Yeah, and so it was just gelled all together. And we were lucky in both cases with injuries. We didn't have many injuries. In 84, we played, 19 games in about 2.5 month tour. Wednesday, Saturday, England, Ireland, Scotland and Wales. I played 12 games in that period. And we had a team of 27. I was 26. Squad of 26. We had a coach. For the first time ever, we had a forwards coach. First time ever. We had a doctor who was pretended to be a physio as well, and a manager. That was it. That was our team. For 19 games, 4 test matches and a Barbarians game.
You don't know how lucky you are.
And we got
I would
paid.
never have lasted.
And we got paid £8 a day. That was the IRB allowance.
Yeah, because it was so long ago, that's about £800,000 a day, wasn't it?
Inflation. So I was a
Invest it wisely.
I was a student, so £8 a day was £8 I didn't have. So it was great. It was great fun.
I'm unemployed, so it's more. £8 is more than I'm getting.
You DJ, don't you?
I do. Not every night.
Don't start
sadly.
that. Don't start that. He's available for hire.
You could have done my prom yesterday.
I could have done it if
they'd
they'd coughed up the cash, but they didn't ask me. Do you know what I've actually bizarrely, because I don't want to detract from
Can you just tell everyone about your gig at Ascot last week?
Yeah, I did it at Ascot Racecourse, and
you say that.
Well, I say that. Basically, what happened is that they wouldn't, because of the horse, it was on during the racing and the gaps in between, they wouldn't turn the volume up that loud, and they had no bass. So people come out and go, "Can you turn it up, mate?" I'm like, "There's nothing I can do." And a sound guy, right? It's a sound guy who'd gone to me. I'm normally a drummer. I was like, "I didn't ask that question. I don't care. Please never speak to me again." And he's like hovering around. And he's like speaking to me. And I said, "Listen, mate, you've got to turn this up. This is embarrassing." I had 3 sets of an hour, 45 minutes, and 15 minutes, bizarrely, and there was no bass. I said, "There's no low end." And
so you're just playing treble?
Yeah, there was no. I just played the triangle. Honestly, it sounded like someone getting saucepans and banging it with a wooden spoon, like rubric. Yeah, rubric, exactly like rubric. I could have done with that. He would have been better. And honestly, and it would have been. It was basically terrible. And by the end of it, everyone was steaming. And I had my binoculars out. Go, "Can anyone find the bass? Has anyone seen the bass?" And the sound guy kept picking up his iPad. And I went to the end of it, going, "Thanks for that, mate." He went, "Yeah, sorry, I couldn't get you more. We've got strict rules." Went, "You did nothing for me, mate. I can't. You've absolutely offered nothing." So all my friends, luckily, we just got real drunk and just didn't worry about it. But it was. Perfect. But I've actually recorded the sets because in my. Obviously, from the mixer into the device is all the proper sound. Yeah. So I was in my headphones, I could hear everything. So I was like partying, take it off, like about to drop, like change the bass out, and it'd be like. Everyone's looking. I was like, "This is terrible." I was honestly losing it. And Chloe was like mouthing, "Just enjoy yourself. Just enjoy yourself."
A couple of lone strangers wandering through by mistake.
Yeah. And that was it.
Party in your own head.
Yeah, terrible. Exactly. Terrible case of it.
Can I ask you about some of the characters?
Yeah.
I can't imagine Campo as a godfather or Uncle David, but Campo, first of all, discuss.
He's an interesting character, David, and I've known him since 1982. We started playing together under 21s. We were both, I was 18, he was 19. And, just brilliant player. And most of the time, as playing fly half, you try and work out what you're going to do. And most of my first thoughts would be, how can I use him? Yeah. Either as a decoy or as an end user. And it's pretty simple back then, that's what we did. And he's not the easiest of guys around the team, but generally he wanted the team to do well. Yeah. And he's back in Australia now and seems to be very content and doing okay. So that's
why
good.
was he not the easiest? And how did Australia? Up here, you look at England and how England don't necessarily make the most of their mavericks. Yeah. How did Australia get the most?
That's the thing. I think he was always a bit of a maverick, and it's a bit like you've got a sales team and you've got this guy out there who's killing it in terms of his numbers and can do the sales, but maybe not the easiest person to deal with in around the sales team. Yeah. So what do you do with that person? You don't want to lose him because you want to make your numbers, but how does that work with the rest of the team? And things like we made sure that he had responsibility for others and things like, he won't know any of this, but Nick and I used to talk about it. And so, new guys like Timmy and Jason would come into the team. So we'd say, Campo, those guys really look up to you. Can you just show them the way of the team and, look after them? And he'd sort of, okay, and then Timmy and Jason had come to us and, can you tell Tampa to go away, he's annoying us. but so you sort of, and try and do that, and give him responsibilities for others, so he starts to think about others. Yeah. I'm not saying that he was selfish or anything like that, and he was a superstar. A real superstar.
But sometimes the best players are. Super selfish, and that's the difference. A lot of people I know that you're describing as mavericks and different, they have an individual sportsman's mentality in a team sport, and that's where they go wrong. And they're so blinded by the fact that they're so good. And I've never met. I obviously know of David, he's a legend, but I've never met him. And I've always been interesting because again, he kind of courts. He's quite outspoken.
Yeah. He's done the billboard up and down Oxford Street, hasn't he?
Yeah.
And it's that sort of stuff that. And I don't think he was, if you asked him, it was team first, but not always what he said or did reflected that. Like, for example, I was sitting up in Brisbane at the office playing for Australia, and I'm in the office during the week. But
what were you doing?
And somebody rang me. I was working for a commercial property group in Australia, an investment group, and a journalist from the Sydney Morning Herald rang me, and Greg Growden, who's still around, I think, and he said, "What do you think about what Campo said?" And I said, "Well, I haven't," because in those days you
don't have any.
You don't.
CFAX.
I don't get the the Sydney Morning Herald on my iPad. We were Courier Mail up in Brisbane. I said, "Well, what did he say?" He said, "Well, Lynagh never passes me the ball. He's useless. I never get the ball. I get frustrated out in the wing." So it was a whole article like this, and I rang him up. I said, "Campo, what are you talking about?" He said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, slated me in the press, you've done this and that. He said, don't worry about it. I never read it. And I said, well, I do. And it hurts. And obviously you're the world record try scorer, so I must have passed you the ball a couple of times.
Yeah.
So he said, oh, mate, don't worry about it. So it's those sort of things that where he didn't, it doesn't really mean it, but people latch onto that and make big headlines out of it. And it did hurt, that sort of stuff, but he just let it go. And so it's things like that. But I genuinely don't think he really meant to hurt anybody. It's just he just says stuff.
Itchy feet. Yeah.
But he was great to have, and I'd rather have him in the team than not.
You mentioned Horan and Little as well. I mean, Horan I think he was player of the tournament in '99, wasn't he? That semi-final, he was in bed all week, got out and was man of the match. Yeah. I'm just sort of thinking, and you mentioned Ella Brothers as well. Of all the players you played with, who was the most gifted?
Well, Ilsey wasn't too bad either, but very different in the way what he had to do and, say, Timmy and Jason. Going back even further, there was a guy called Michael O'Connor who was a centre back in the early 80s, and he was something else.
Really?
And he was one of the last dual internationals. So he went to rugby league in the mid-80s and played for Australian Rugby League as well, and had a great career. But he was very talented. Timmy and Jason would be up there. Nick was pretty good. And then you got, George. I mean... but that's what's lovely about rugby. You got all these guys like Campo and Timmy and all that out in the backs, but you got Kernsey and Ealesy and all those guys up the front.
Tony Daly.
Dale's up the front. And you can't do your job.
I'm in my element here. This is my sweet spot.
You know what? It was why I had to get someone of that he was like fanboy.
I've been so excited about Michael Lynagh
because he's got everything.
I can use my directory, my Rolodex of facts.
And that's, you got those guys who were great at the time.
Yeah.
Who did their jobs, and we did ours, and it all worked so well.
Lewis is thinking, what the hell have I come
Does this resonate at all?
No,
I mean, do you know any of the people?
Dad said you were going to ask me questions. So
I'm quite happy to sit. You're learning something.
Exactly.
And I was telling Lewis, don't worry about it. James will do all the talking.
I've got nothing to say this evening.
Well, no, you're just doing you're nice to listen. Nice to learn something.
Oh, I love it. I mean, but I was very excited my first time I ever did Sky with Michael, because obviously I knew he was a legend, and I ended up doing. Do you know what was really interesting, actually, and it probably didn't even register for him, but him and Sean Fitzpatrick going and doing Sky, always so polite, always so welcoming. I must have met you, Michael, I don't know, when I was 21, so how long that is, I'm 34 now. Yeah. And
13 years for those.
Perfect. And that's why I don't do maths. That's why I'm not working in a finance building.
Scrum cap on probably. Very good.
That's why I'm DJing to no crowd with zero bass.
To a stray horse at Haskell.
Oh, it's still getting paid, so don't worry about it.
Okay, good.
And I remember coming in and obviously being super welcomed, and it was one of my favourite things to do was to do Sky with Michael and Sean and yourself, and do those kind of things. They were always so welcoming. And actually, all 3 years, every time I bumped into Michael, always, how are you, James? Always a good chat. And for me, obviously, I knew these guys were legends of the game, but always so nice. It was a shame when obviously Sky kind of changed their coverage and didn't do so much stuff. And then that's when I was, you talked about it, was when the stroke. I was like, what the hell? Like, that was like a super shocking for me as well, because I was like,
and for me.
Well, I can imagine, imagine it was a bit of a surprise. but just all those kind of things. It's been really nice. So they've kind of been part of my journey as well. So I still feel like a kind of a young kind of early player, but whenever I see them, but they were you were there from the very start of my career, so you've watched me the entire time, just as you've kind of watched.
I remember Alex did his first ever live presenting thing with you, Sean and I,
Fitzy and Bobby Skinstad, and I was on Sky Sports News the night before. It was you say that I was on Sky Sports News the night before, and they came in at 11:30 and said, "You've got to go home now." Simon Lazenby, who was the presenter, his eye had exploded, which I think made it. I think he'd had a rather good night out, and someone had taken offence. So I got home at sort of midnight, and I had to be back in again for probably about 4:30.
Yeah, it was early. Yeah.
And you were an absolute gent. You said we're going to be absolutely fine here. Bob Skinstad was absolutely lovely. Fitzy was sitting there as we went on air, 5, 4, 3, and I thought, all right, this is car crash waiting to happen. Fitzy just let there and went, "Don't cock it up, mate." And that was it. Seatbelts on and away we go.
Obviously, Michael's always been smiles. The best thing about Fitzy, the only thing I've noticed is that as the years have got on, he's got more and more Mont Blanc, Chanel, Gucci, little accompaniments, little bits and pieces, because he knows. Is it what's that group that he knows?
Laureus.
Richemont. Yeah, Richemont group. So every time I see him, I'm like, he's like Dunhill this, Cartier that. I'm like, oh,
the cowpack getting more and more smarmed down on top.
We always try to hang around just in case one of his watches falls off.
Honestly, I've got 7 of his Mont Blanc pens. Busy, can I borrow a pen, mate? He comes up with a Bic. His eyesight's not great, so he doesn't know.
He'd be fun to have a double date. Actually, these two, when they get going. I remember him doing, just while we're talking about it, going on air with the two of you once. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and on a 3 shot, and Fitzy just leant over and let your chair down, and so you were sitting on the floor like that, and he looked like the emperor. Bloody irritating. Bloody irritating.
I think that's kind of missing now as well, those characters. Like as I said, and also for a young player to like deal with these legends, and also sometimes you meet kind of your heroes and people, they're terrible. And some people I've met in my career I just never speak to. But as soon as I see Michael anywhere, I mean, I bumped into you guys in that restaurant, didn't I?
Yeah, in the restaurant.
When I think was I with my family or they hadn't turned up? Oh, this is the best thing.
You're with some guy, and your wife.
Oh, was my was that time? So you know what? Like 3 days later, or the following week, I invited my family to the same place because it was a really nice dinner, and they got caught in the traffic and stood me up. So I couldn't remember whether you see me walking. I should have done actually.
Amazing. So you mentioned the stroke. Can I ask you about that?
Yeah,
actually,
sure.
before I'd love to ask you. Do you remember? I mean, I remember hearing it, and I can't imagine what it must have been like.
Oh well, yeah, I was.
Well, how old? It was a few years ago.
It was 2012, so I was just. Was it April? Mm-hmm. So I was still 11, and I was just about old enough to remember it all, whereas my other brothers were a bit smaller and didn't really understand what was going on. I remember I was over at my mate's house. I think it was my mum had gone over to her friend's house, who's the mum of my friend, to tell her about it, and I didn't know yet. And we got in the car after that, and she said, "What happened?" And I was just like, I didn't know what a stroke was at that time, and it was like a heart attack to the brain, almost like something like that's how she explained it. But it was weird, like saying that because mum then had to fly out to Australia.
Yeah, so
a couple of days later,
in Australia,
that's right.
And I was over there on my own. But it was she came out about 10 days later.
And he'd been gone for I don't know, a month.
No,
already.
I wasn't. I hadn't.
No, you'd been on a trip.
Yeah, it was only a short trip.
Yeah,
but then I stayed out there for a month. Or so 6 weeks, I think it was.
So you were almost young enough that it was frightening, but not necessarily in the heat of the moment.
It wasn't. Looking back on it, I should have probably
It should have been a lot nicer.
Definitely.
It should be much nicer to me. Yes.
Yeah, right. But I remember your co-author of your autobiography. I remember doing the interview for my little section about that, and that was the first time I'd ever properly got into it, and it was just like I was obviously quite weird and all that sort of stuff. But like you said, I was young enough to not really.
So it's
fully comprehend it.
It's hard for young kids to understand. You know, if you've got a broken arm, you break a bone and you've got it cast on and you can see it and it'll mend and it'll get better. With the brain, it's a bit harder to sort of tell people, to young kids what it means. So I lost half my sight and I still have that. These are just because I'm old, but
they look good too. They look wise.
And so when I first came back to try and explain to the kids, I've lost all my provision.
We make use
my
of
vision
it.
to the left, right? And it's like I can't see my hand there, not there. And to try and help them understand that, I bought them pirate eye patches and made them wear it at dinner one night. Just to try and get an understanding of what I see and what I can't see. But they do use it a little bit every now and then, don't you?
It's quite funny.
Sneak out of the house on your left.
Wallet going with them, kind of thing.
But I'm driving again now, and they won't drive with me because they're terrified. And
no, I do. We drove all the way to Italy.
In Italy, you probably fit right in actually with one eye. I thought
on the wrong side of the road.
I was like falling asleep, and I was like, I have to trust him because we were driving through the night. I woke up and we were still alive.
And I was asleep.
But you've got vision. You can see with your third eye. That would be impressive.
But you're back golfing and
So
badly.
I didn't play golf for a year, and I was off 7 at the time when it happened, 7 or 8, something like that. And then I couldn't play. I didn't play for a year, and then it was actually I went out and played a few times, and it became so frustrating. I couldn't hardly hit the ball. And I came home and said to Isabella, "That's it. I'm giving up golf. I can't. It just really annoys me."
Yeah.
And she said, "No. Why would you do that? Why don't you just see it as another sort of thing you have to rise above? And secondly, just treat it as another goal you have to overcome or try and achieve. And secondly, and most importantly, you're lucky to be out there. So go and enjoy it." And I thought, she's right. And what sort of wife tells you to go and play golf? So I did.
Take it and run with it.
So I'm back down to 8 or 9 now, or something
It's
like
bloody
that.
irritating, actually, if we're being honest.
I can't play to it, but I sort of, some days I do, some days
But
I
weirdly
don't.
enough as well is that from all the stuff, obviously I haven't heard the backstory, but interesting enough, you've obviously got an unbelievable ability yourself in all the sports. Your kids obviously do as well, because you're talking about cricket, ball sports, golf. Ironically, it sounds like most of these things you picked up, you were quite naturally very good at rugby league. So I know it'll be hard to realise, but actually having a little bit of a challenge has probably made you work a little bit harder instead of, like,
absolutely right.
You see me trying to play golf, you're frustrated. I didn't know which end of the held
But
the
it's sort
club.
of, but it's also, you knew where you used to be, and now you're at the other end of the spectrum, and you're right, having to deal with that. But it's also the frustration that you knew, and I guess with age you get worse as well. Some people do. So but you have to deal with that. You're right, and the boys are pretty good at stuff that they do as well, but learning to deal with stuff that you're not quite good at is important.
It's weird as well because I've talked to Chloe about it, obviously retired. I was known for doing kind of one thing, you've been good at rugby, and then when you retire, you've got to find your good at. And I was never very naturally talented at any kind of sport. I played all sports, tried everything, but I didn't have, say, the natural talent that you've got or Lewis has got, all these people have got. So it's quite weird. I've got to kind of re-skill, even like with the DJing or the speaking, whatever it might be, or the work stuff. You kind of got to upskill.
That's right.
It's quite interesting when you meet someone who's naturally very gifted at things, and then suddenly have to challenge. Once you get over the frustration of it and realise, actually this is just another challenge to try to get better at and learn. I think it almost makes it more rewarding now the fact you've got down to 8 again. Do you know what I mean? Or play to that. I think that's an amazing achievement.
But see, that's where sometimes when you've got a lot of natural ability and it all comes really easy to you, you don't work as hard as other people. And that's what I admire about people like yourself who, know they have to work hard to get there, and that's what you do. That I really admire that, and what I tell out my boys is, don't waste your natural talent. I've seen so many people who were so good at what they did, all came so easily that they didn't work that very hard, and people overtook them.
Or if they got frustrations, I know your stroke isn't a frustration, that's a serious medical thing, but if you get an obstacle and you don't have the resilience to be able to do it, that's what makes it
harder,
but that's the very fact that exactly what your missus said is then you go, actually I've reached that challenge. A lot of people with talent go, I can't do it. But then when you find a way, find the tools, and you make it, more often than not, they're even better. I mean, I've seen it in my career. So many people who are way better than I was, who just didn't have the discipline, didn't have the ability.
I've seen it a lot.
Or if someone put a roadblock in front of them, they just couldn't. They didn't have the resilience to do it. They just couldn't deal with it. Instead of going, and we all have those moments, but I actually think it's quite nice to sometimes dig in and go, right. As long as you've got a plan and see what you're going to be able to do,
got to keep going.
Yeah.
How often do you reflect on that element of your life now? Do you find the stroke?
Yeah, I do a lot. I'm a trustee of the Stroke Association and all that sort of stuff, and so I talk about it a lot, and it's quite interesting. I find it quite cathartic at times to actually talk and to help other people. You talk to young people who've had strokes or old people that have had strokes, and you've been through it, so I understand what they're going through and the frustrations of it, what they're going through, and I tell them, sort of things that I've learnt to cope with stuff, and that's a good idea. And so rather than being seeing it as a weakness in terms of having a stroke as a weakness, I see it as a strength, and being able to talk and help other people about it as well. It's very strong. So I do what I can.
Do they know why it happened?
Yeah, it's a sort of a long story. It just seems like a perfect storm, and my back right artery split. I actually was having a beer with some friends in Brisbane, very quiet, Monday night, second light beer after a steak, and somebody was telling a joke, and 8:30 at night, and took a sip, and punchline came through, and I had a choking coughing fit, and that was the catalyst that brought it on. I'd sort of been flying, I was stressed, I'd missed flights, I'd speaking at some place in Singapore, a charity thing, and speaking at Singapore, playing golf, hot, dehydrated, sleeping on the plane the wrong way, a whole lot of things came together, and that was the catalyst.
And that ruptured it with the laugh, and then obviously the blood clot or whatever went there.
Yeah, so it's two. Basically, one, when it ruptured, it bled into the brain, and then it clotted. So and so it's still blocked now, that one. I've got you get 3 other arteries, so they're still working all right. But and I haven't had anything, touch wood, since. So it's been okay.
It's remarkable.
Yeah.
Is it odd talking about it? Do you find it? Do you talk about it, or do you just sort of?
No, not so much. It's like got past that point. But
what's your mum like with it? Is she happy to discuss it, or just crack on?
Yeah, she's fine with it. She's just more conscious of the fact that like Dad had it, and he's always like like, you know this, but he changed from like he used to be very
nice.
No, you're nice now. You used to be very angry back in the day. Yeah, no, but like I remember like when he came home, Mum was like, yeah, he's got to relax more. And stuff like that. So he sleeps a lot now, or is that's just age, really?
Yeah, actually, when I came home, I said, you know, because it's very important when you have an injury to the brain, as you know, sleep's very important. Resting the brain. It's like when you have a broken leg, you got to rest it. And so sleep was always very important in recovery. And I just said to Isabella, look, you know, I sleep a lot, and so if I'm on the couch, you know, I'm sleeping, leave me.
Yeah.
You know, and she goes, oh, so nothing different then.
I love you do the old pencil trick in the office behind the sofa. Oh, I found it. When everyone comes in and disturbs you.
Well, I like that. They were like, obviously, have you milked it in any respect? So you're like angry. So you've got the sleeping
Michael's
thing. You're like,
man.
leave me. You're like, leave me alone. You know, your missus, any time that, you know, obviously marriages, you always have there's always a small element of friction somewhere. Do you start going, and then she shuts up and leaves the room? Or anything? I'd be doing that the whole time.
I bet you would. Free pass.
Yeah. But it's one of those things, and you know, I think she does get a little bit worried sometimes, and don't exercise too hard and stuff like that. So, but you know, it's 6.5 years now. When I first went back to work, there's a lot of coping strategies and things like that I just sort of worked out myself, really. So when I started to go back to work in the office, I was finding I was getting very, very tired in the afternoon. So I'd schedule all my meetings in the morning and nothing in the afternoons, because otherwise I'd be nodding off in the afternoon. So it's just things like that. You know, with my driving, I sometimes when I'm on my own, I put the window down on the left because I can't see there. So if I can hear, it's another sensor
tool to have. Yeah.
He just says,
The problem is there's all these bloody Teslas that they
can't hear them.
Exactly.
Prius, straight,
It's interesting you mentioned your wife. Italian, by descent, is that right? So I'm going to turn the spotlight onto you.
Yes.
Here it comes. Qualified for Australia,
Italy,
and England.
Yes.
All three have been in touch.
Yeah.
So you've done England age group, haven't you?
Yeah,
Since
since
16 and
18s and 19s.
And 19s.
Yeah, so far, hopefully.
Good.
Yeah.
So is that just testing the waters, or is this is a test of your early PR and your early media training? You're going to sing which national anthem in the test arena? You might hum all three, of course, if you're playing for one against the other two. But
no, whoever I'm most lucky to. I live here right now.
Yeah.
So I'm obviously been very lucky to play for England at age group level and get as many opportunities as I have, and being qualified for 3 countries. Not many people even get a chance to be qualified for 2, let alone play at an international level.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'll see what happens over the next few years, but right now I'm here. And
you should do the framed jersey trick and wrap them all up again and just lucky dip it. You'll end up in the.
Or just keep your option open right to the very end and then make a decision.
Like you did.
Yeah, I'm qualified for all 4 home nations. Yeah.
2 of them didn't want him.
Yeah.
And then he was training with Wales and England.
I spent like 20 grand with my mum phoning them up every 5 minutes. I'm like, why is the phone bill? She's calling Wales straight to Scotland to Ireland, but no.
So how are you qualified for all 4?
So my mum's was Welsh. My mum's dad was Irish. And then there's some Scottish. There's enough Scottish heritage to qualify for that. My dad was English.
Wow.
So I'm qualified. I could have pulled
You couldn't lose.
I know, but I mean, as someone, after we said this show, obviously, in the world of social media, I obviously jokingly said, I would have won a few more Grand Slams if I played for Wales. And then everyone's like, we wouldn't want you, you wouldn't get in. I was like, okay, thank you. There's a few Scotland people that were slightly keen would have had me, but they're not that so much. And Ireland were like, we wouldn't want you anyway. I was like, right, well, I'll take England. I'm pretty happy. It went all right. Had a good
You did a good qualified for Scotland.
Are you?
My grandfather on my mother's side.
I would probably pick you now.
Yeah, exactly.
Get you in.
So yeah, my grandfather on my mother's side was born in Scotland. Yeah.
There you are. Yeah. Did you ever have that conversation?
No. I mean, back in the day,
they didn't have phones back then.
Exactly. The pigeon never made it, sadly.
It died on the way.
This is 425 Australia. Can I go speak to Scotland, please?
But it wasn't. I mean, you lived in Australia, you were amateur.
Yeah.
And that's who you played for.
Yeah.
You know, there was nothing. There was no. The only sort of places that you did sort of do that were Italy was sort of starting to do things like that, where people would go and play there for 5 years and get qualified, or had Italian parents or stuff.
He's qualified for Romanian shuffleboard, aren't you? That was your big break, but it didn't work out.
What?
Romanian shuffleboard.
I'm Batonk.
Batonk.
Fine.
I can't remember. Is it under 20s where you make the decision, or
I think it depends.
It depends. Yeah.
It's the top 2 teams in each country, and each country has to nominate it. I think it's England and Saxon.
Yeah, I think you're right.
is Saxon still going on? No,
Not really,
once every 4 years.
But I actually think if you're sensible in a country, it should be your main full team and your under 20s. So you capture the talent at that age, because most of the time it's come through the age groups.
Yes.
I also think what we talked about in one of the shows, the residency rule.
Yeah.
I think you should be able to, if you played, you haven't played for a certain amount, played for a certain amount of time for your test team, there's no chance you're ever getting back. You should be able to go and maybe wait one change. So someone like Charles Piatow, go and play for Tonga, they were saying, or Samoa.
Maybe there's an appeal process or something where, the last thing New Zealand needs is another person who's played for somewhere else coming back there, but maybe some of the islands.
That's what I mean. Going back to their native homes and stuff. Yeah, so we said that.
I was still saying that for Lau, if he does go back to playing rugby, is like Tonga want him.
Yeah.
I don't know how that.
No, well, he can't do it
exactly
because he's played for Australia.
It'll just take that
Don't
$1 million.
mention the Falau word.
I was going to say, is that somewhere we go, or is that? I mean,
it'll just take that $1 million and bugger off with it.
I think it's more than that, actually. Is it?
Oh, but do you know what, weird enough? Maybe it's for another show. But having been on my tour of the Pacific Islanders, my grand tour I've been to Pacific Islands, and especially seeing the Fijian and Tongan culture, I had completely misjudged this whole thing, and this whole association where people are saying, it's part of their culture. It's absolute bollocks. I've never seen a more accommodating people, and that it's a small section of very religious people that believe that actually, there's out gay people in Tonga, Fiji, all over the place, and it's just there's none of this nonsense going on. And I'd obviously always believed that it was kind of part of the culture. Everyone was quite religious, etc., and that it was quite dumbed down. No, it's just him getting arsey along with other arsey people who are making stuff up.
It's interesting.
I just didn't believe it. I honestly, it was an eye-opening affair. We can talk about it in more detail. I don't want to hijack this, but it was just really interesting because we talked about it.
Michael's just sitting slightly uncomfortable.
I know what the headline's going to be tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what your standard. I don't want to put words in it, but I was just astounded by the whole process. Really, I just didn't realise.
Okay. Australia looking for a fullback, funnily enough, as it would appear, going into the World Cup. They might be on the phone tomorrow. So just talk us through the next few months and things like that. What is it just about getting comfortable at this level? What do you want to achieve?
Yeah.
Actually, first of all, tell us about the house. So you're moving in on the 1st of July with
Sam, Riley, Lennox, and James Borton, and it's those are us four are the new guys
in a house in Guildford.
There's 2 houses, and basically it's at the Surrey Uni campus. And
don't give the address out.
Oh my God, I can just see you frothing with excitement at the potential.
Me?
Yeah.
What, going around? What?
Well, just their lives in front of them. The fun that they're going to have.
I never did the Academy House thing.
Did you not?
I never did it.
So much cash, you bought yourself a mansion and just kicked back.
I just lived at home like the guy from The Hangover. I was upstairs, radioing down to my mum. Mum! Or I was a bit like the guy from Wedding Crashers.
Oh God,
yeah. What the fuck do you want? Yeah. I was nunchucked you, man.
Farrell.
Yeah, that guy. That was like me. My mum's always walking, meatloaf. That was but I never did that. But Tom Rees, James Dunn, and a few other people lived in Academy House, and one trip to there was enough. Toilet roll mountain, kind of all these dirty plates, just hell, no organisation.
We're not going to be like that.
They all say like
hoovering on a Monday, dishes on a Tuesday.
I'll do the dishes. I'll cook.
The cleaner in a hazmat suit, just like coming in and hoovering it. Yeah,
devacking. Quite exciting.
Yeah, no, it's all very new. I'm looking forward to it and seeing what happens. I'm not looking forward to the conditioning, but that's got to happen.
Have they started you out on that journey already? Have they said?
Yeah, I forgot. I've had a program sent over to me that I'm doing. Yeah, I like to think so, but it's all getting very real, and I'm just looking forward to getting started because obviously, like with Harlequins, they've signed a lot of new people as well. Yeah. So in the aspects of initiations, we're hopefully quite lucky that a lot of people have to do it with us.
Good.
But
you just got to dive in.
Yeah,
exactly. I tell you, I'm lucky. Paul Gustard's one of the best coaches I've ever worked with.
Yeah, he's had chats to me already, and he just seems.
Don't let too many chats to you because he can be quite, might corrupt you. What, can you cook?
I can cook certain things.
Right, Italian blood coming through.
Fine, because I've got a great book called Cooking for Fitness. It's available for all students. And a barbecue.
DJ afterwards.
Three new copies coming through the letterbox. So
only one. Probably only one of them can read. I reckon Lewis is probably the smart sharp. I haven't met the other two.
What did you do? A-levels?
Oh, I did, what did I do? English literature, psychology and geography.
Intelligent.
Oh, you were winning until geography. That's just colouring in a map, isn't it?
It's hardly thing.
Oxbow Lakes, erosion,
Terminal moraine.
Zyda Z dam scheme, all those kind of things.
So you obviously did that as well.
No, I did history, politics and English, Michael, actually.
Well
A and 2Bs, you're welcome.
Well
Don't
done.
worry about it. Yeah.
Love that.
So, and when did the results come out?
August 15th.
Christ alive. It's all going on at the moment.
Yeah, I'm not...
Loving it, living it.
I'm just, looking
Are you having
forward
any
to
time? So you're starting on the 8th of July, you're having any time away?
I've already had my time away. I think. Well, I went to Italy last week with Tom and Mum. We saw my granddad, and then come back in and just chilling until everything.
Right, but is it like an
happens.
actual lads holiday that's happening because you've done?
He's a pro.
Yeah,
He's a pro.
Maybe just 3 days somewhere.
That's probably we get a 10-day break in August sometime. So
gather the lads together and
something like that.
And you know the guys very well that you're living with.
Oh yeah,
because you've been in the academy with them.
Yeah, since I've been in there since I was 14, and I properly started talking to those guys at under 16 level when everyone started training a lot together.
Yes.
Because at under 14 level we train every 2 months or something. But at under 16s it started to come once a week, and so I got to know everyone.
Can I give you one piece of advice?
Yeah.
Get a cleaner.
I can clean.
No. Honestly, do not scream. Right, it's one of those things where you get tight ass lads that don't want to don't get paid great as you're an academy player. I'm sure you're great. Not bad, but
more than you're getting right now.
I know, no doubt.
You want a cleaner?
That's why I'm having a cleaner. I've got a really good looking cleaner, quite amusing. No, you honestly, because you'll turn around and say get a cleaner, and they'll say, oh, do 2 hours a week. Now get me twice a week. Beginning of the week, end of the week, and it will change your life. If you don't, I promise you, you'll have plates up to the ceiling, it'll be hell, because the novelty will wear after a while, because you come back from pre-season, where you've been battered,
tired,
Mike Brown's kicked a ball in your head and trod on your face, right? You've been at it all the time, and the last thing you want to do is cook and clean. I promise you, it's the best investment you can make, and it will change the setup. And also...
We'll crowdfund.
Crowdfund, yeah. Exactly. I mean, listen, Israel Flower got £1 million off it. I'm crowdfunding.
Yeah, exactly.
What are you going to crowdfund for?
I don't know. I'm just going to do something crazy and then just get everyone to pay for it. Yeah. I would like to have a Ferrari. I'm unemployed.
There was a guy in Australia that did that. He crowdfunded for a Ferrari.
And got it?
No.
Oh,
No.
well.
They took it down. But they gave examples in Australia of people.
Oh, this is in the aftermath of Flowers.
What can I
people
crowdfund
crowdfunded
for? What should we do, Mike?
Michael doesn't need to
A
crowdfund.
new lid. Can someone crowdfund a new hair for me?
Crowdfund for a better bass in your sound system. That's
Yes, crowdfund for some bass in my next set. We'll do that.
They can really annoy people.
Are you? I mean, how excited are you for him at this
Very,
point?
actually. It's good, yeah. I mean, he's... we've known since quite a while that this is what he's doing, and he wants to give it a go. So, yeah, very excited for him, you know.
I was going to say, why Quins?
That's where that's where
Because it's where it's been. But
lived,
there were
and-
other conversations, and you sort of not Jerry Maguire.
It's just it was our catchment area,
Yeah.
and that's where he went. So he's been there, as he said, since he was 13 or 14, and they've been very good. The academy systems here seem to me to be pretty good, and Quinn's have looked after him very well, and it's just you don't
Worked,
it's worked.
Do you look at a Marcus Smith and think that's a kind of trajectory I'd love to emulate?
If everything falls into place, that's
Like Brownie goes to the World Cup or something.
Yeah.
No,
He's in
but
the
I
squad,
don't.
If Brownie's walking on the high street and 3 masked assailants come out of nowhere and batter him and throw him into a bush.
Yeah.
No, but that's you've played with
in a
Marcus
perfect
quite a
storm.
bit.
Yeah, no, I remember when I was 16 years old playing the first team. We played Brighton, and we played Marcus, and it was nice because I didn't really know him back then, but I was on the halfway line kicking, and he came over and said hi. I
remember watching that game, and it was noticeable. He was good.
Yeah, no, but it was such a bad game because they were on an unbeaten season, and 10 minutes into the game we were winning 3-0, and
cracking game.
Yeah, I was going to say big lead.
Their prop went down, and with an apparent neck injury. And because it was in winter time, he was down for half an hour until the ambulance come. So we couldn't finish the game in time because of the sun.
Yeah.
So they said, we'll call the game off, but then we'll continue playing, but the result won't go towards the league because they wanted to keep the unbeaten season.
So they robbed you. What you're saying is Marcus Smith and the band of Brighton cheating bastards robbed you.
Yeah.
No.
Where would you like to be in 12 months' time? What would you like to have achieved? A few games for the firsts. Feeling more comfortable.
I guess just getting used to it all and like achieving goals that not just on the playing field, but like off it, like hitting certain weight goals, nutrition goals.
What do they want to build you up to?
Well, I like where I am right now, but we'll see when the body fat percentages come in at the start of the season. First
you've got a book. You've got a book to help. You're going to pull that in.
Well, you say that, but there are 2 books available.
Yeah, but I think it's rather than weight. I actually think it's your pace.
Yeah,
speed.
Definitely.
You got to keep that, otherwise you become like everyone else.
I don't think. I know I'm the archetypal person that should be giving you the other advice, but the size thing. I said it in everything I've done. It's just not. It's not that relevant.
Exactly.
I don't think. I think that.
Speed.
But also it's the ability of your core skills. Like if any young players watching it, genuinely, it's so you've got your natural abilities. There's a reason you've been selected in the first place. Yes, you can always make improvements. It's better to be powerful and strong than it is to be big. It's better to be fast than it is to be slow. But more importantly, if you can't, people say I fall off tackles all the time because I'm not bigger. No, it's because you can't tackle. Because your technique's not good enough. And all those. I think when you break down rugby into all those core skill groups and spend your time working on them, you will naturally, through the process of being a professional sportsman, get bigger and stronger. But unless it's a real prerequisite for you to be massive because you're a prop and you need that extra weight because the scrummaging laws have changed, but it's not. Yeah. So look, being lean is great, not being too lean, because you're going to take a lot of impacts. And you noticed it from playing those two second team games. When you get into the Premiership, and you get those games, you start playing more. It's it's attritional. Training's attritional. I was talking to someone the other night and they're talking about, we want to cut games down. It's like, not games isn't the problem. It's the training's the problem.
How difficult the training is.
Yeah, well, and also whether, they ramp it up and what, we've talked about in other shows about people doing stuff out of fear and going, well, look, we have to, Tuesday's always our big day. We need to have contact Tuesday, especially in the forward. When you're lucky you're not in the forwards. Yeah. All those kind of things, I think it'd be much worse if you were a forward.
But, definitely in the scrum.
Forward's got the worst job
I feel
in the world.
sorry for Sam, Jesus.
Mate,
he's a hooker.
Yeah.
First session he'll be in.
Yeah, honestly, it'll be like that. He'll be compressed. He'll come out of that and he won't be doing anything in the house. He'll be sitting on the sofa.
Neck brace.
Honestly, I promise you, we see these young hookers get into the first session, and because obviously there's no way, then they've done all the neck strength, but their first scrummaging session. When someone, like Sinclair, just comes in or whatever, I know he's away for the World Cup, but whatever these guys do, the pressure, it will be like this the next day. Yeah. Like, how's the session? Like, great, I can't clean the house. We should have got a cleaner.
You'll be thinking of him.
Exactly.
What do you do? What's the metric these days for speed? 40? 10? 5?
There's a lot of stuff like 40 yards.
There's always 100 metres back in.
With
baggy shorts and a long top.
There's a lot
running
of
on
chariots of fire.
No, I guess I just want to get to a speed where I can keep up with the play.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
I think you'll be all right in that regard.
No, I was surprised by when I was training with them. Yeah. Like Niall Saunders would pick off the scrum, and I didn't start up early enough, and he was gone. I was back here, and I'm just like, oh, this is really quick. And
you got to get used to playing with the team.
Definitely.
And also, look, it's one of those things. Your dad will tell you, I'm going to tell you, say that every season you play professional rugby, you think you have it cracked until you go back next season and realise, oh my God, how much extra work I've got to do and how the game evolves. But it's the scariest thing is that when, especially under Eddie, we would go for an England session and say Eddie would be like, Hass, mate, or you're not playing, or you're rested, or you're injured. You would sit on the sideline and watch training, and you'd be like this. I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can do it. And honestly, you talk to Dylan, talk to the lads, Launchbury, whoever it might be, Courtney, someone's missed a session. You go into thinking, you're like, fucking hell, lads. Did you see the pace of that session? I'm like, I just don't think I can do this anymore. And honestly, because everything's like perception-wise, but when you're in it, living and breathing and getting it, you'll be fine. And then do you know what? Next season, the pace will increase a little bit, and you'll play your first game, and no doubt it'll go really well. And you think, brilliant, this is easy. And then next day, you'll play another game, like your dad was saying, when you play against the All Blacks and you'll play against a really physical team who'll just fold you up, and you're like, oh God, maybe I've got a long way to go. And if you keep it aspirational the entire time and realise that even at the ripe old age of 34 or however old you is when you retire, you never quite worked it out, but you always keep improving, you did your best and you're fine.
There was one at a time talking about keeping up and also sitting on the sideline, etc. We were in New Zealand in '86 when we won the Bledisloe Cup in a 3-test match thing, and we were, after the second test in Dunedin, we lost it by a point, and so it was pretty devastating. And
You missed the kick, didn't you?
No.
Sit down and be quiet in the cheap seats. You're walking home.
That was another one. But anyway, so our midweek game was against down in Southland. Against
really down, yeah.
Invercargill.
What, I've been down there and played a few times.
So down we go, and we were playing on a Tuesday. And so we'd driven down on the Sunday, and Alan Jones, the coach, is calling the test team in one by one. We're all sitting around the bar or whatever on a Sunday night as we arrive. And the test team's coming out, I've been given tomorrow off training, not playing on Tuesday, go and have a rest ready for the next test. And everybody's quite happy about this because it means golf or doing whatever you want. So my turn comes. I'm going, and Andrew Slack was there as the captain. He said, I've been given the day off. Mate, we'll go and play golf tomorrow. Yeah, great. So in I go, and Jonesy goes, right, I've got some good news for you. And I thought, golf, here I come, you know. And he goes, I made you captain and fullback to play Southland in Invercargill. I went, what? I've never played fullback before. And he said, aren't you pleased? I went, oh, yeah. Anyway, so at training the next day, all my mates in the test team are off playing golf and fishing and all that sort of stuff. And so I'm in the back line and I'm trying to chime in at pace, you know. I literally started in front of the back line and they caught me up and trying to keep going. And in the game, it was windy and muddy and awful. And
it's horrible in that stadium.
And they just kept kicking the ball at me and bang. And oh, dear. Yeah, thanks very much.
Thanks very much.
Tell us where you're at. A fullback.
Final word. Memories of playing against Eddie?
I didn't play him that much. He was down at Randwick.
Randwick hooker.
Yeah, and he played for a few times for New South Wales against Queensland. And he and Michael Checker and another guy who played for them, who was captain, a guy called John Maxwell. They were, let's call it, tough, uncompromising, and very good on the sledging.
Yeah, vociferous.
Oh, boy, they were hard. And they had, Randwick, you know, beautiful backline, all the Ella brothers, and it looked wonderful. But they had this forward pack that was as hard and as tough as anybody.
Did Checker play with Eddie?
Yeah,
that's really amazing. They are very, very similar people.
Yeah,
they talk the same.
I had them both, didn't I? I had Michael at Stade Francais, and then I knew Eddie, and I hated Eddie, and they are similar.
But don't you think they're similar?
Yeah. Right, really.
They sound similar.
Personable, but unbelievably aggressive, like simmering, and can just lose it like that.
So John Maxwell, who was their captain and sort of the leader, and I've played sevens with John. He used to play a lot of sevens and captain the sevens team in Hong Kong. Lovely, lovely guy and a great person to play with. Yeah. Against him, oh my God. You know, and Eddie and Czechs are the same. Just terrible to play against, you know.
I love Czechs.
Yeah. And they're good guys. They're good company, but boy, I don't know if I'd like to. I didn't like playing against them.
Different to you. Was one of the great statesmen of the game.
Yeah, I guess so.
Did you sledge?
No, me?
No,
not really.
You never gave chat.
I used to get a little bit, but not much.
Yeah.
And I remember playing the All Blacks at the Sydney Football Stadium, big game, and I think, you know, when we were very competitive, well, not that we're not now, but we actually used to win every now and then. And I got this kick, a penalty, and I remember Mike Brewer, who was the number 8 at the time. He's just walking back from the ref, and he's gone, Noddy, my nickname. Noddy, I've seen you miss these. I've seen you miss them all the time. And off he went. That's all he said. And I went, oh, geez. And he's standing there, going, yeah. He's like this, you know, got it. But bloody hell.
Sorry about that.
It put a lot of doubt in my mind, you know. When did he see me miss one?
I've certainly seen you give enough to Fitzy over the years to know that you don't take too many.
He's all right. Fitzy was a nightmare to play against. They were really annoying.
He's a nightmare to present with as well.
I can't think. You know, if you look about who was great at sledging, we just didn't really have.
Fitzy was pretty good.
Was he?
Yeah, but he had the referees in his pocket as well. He was one of the first captains to actually realise.
Schmooze them.
Yeah, and did a really good job of it. You know?
I'd love to do another one of these with you and Fitzy on a double date. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to sit ringside.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Thank you.
We will be watching with great interest, and obviously, I hope you love it. I hope you enjoy it, and hopefully, you'll come back and see us again sometime soon. Michael, I hope
very soon.
Thank you. See us. It's
an
absolute pleasure. It's
been
really fun to actually chat about you and your career, because we talk a lot about rugby.
I hope it was
nice to chat about.
It was a long time ago, but
it was good fun. We'll do it again sometime soon.
Thank you.
I've missed you.
Thanks, mate.
Nice to be back.
Yeah. It's good to see the show still going. Didn't even know.
Yeah, well, it has been.
It has been. Yeah. That's the best one.
Nice to finish on a high.
With Silent Producer, I messaged him and he was like, "Oh, hi." He's like,
Who's this?
Yeah, and then I went, "It's James." He's like, James Haskell. I was like, "Is House of Rugby on?" He like muffled it. It's like, shit, I found out. And he's like, "Can you come in on Tuesday?" And I went, "I'm ready for Tuesday." He went, "Oh, we've moved it to Wednesday," thinking I wouldn't be able to do it. And I went, "I'm actually in London." He was like, "No, that's great. We've got Michael Lynagh and his son in. They'll love to have you." I was like, "Okay, Si, I'm still going to turn up just to fuck you, mate, because I know you didn't want me."
He's been very quiet, which means he's been taking great interest in watching. Very
It's good fun. Thank you.
Thank you, gents. Nice to see you. We'll do this again sometime soon. I think we've got a few best-ofs to come between now and... I think we get going again in August.
Do we?
One or two messages actually saying, "Is it coming back? Is it coming back?" I think we're coming back. Yeah,
It should be mega.
We've had a second series in the world.
We have, yeah.
It's been recommissioned.
Like Alan Partridge. Did I get a second series? Did I get a second
Your
series?
Castrol GTX jacket.
Smell my cheese.
Thank you, chaps. Have a lovely summer in the meantime. Good luck with pre-season. Michael, lovely to see you.
Thanks,
Hask,
Alex.
We'll
Thanks,
do this again
Yeah.
sometime
Get a
soon.
cleaner, yeah?
Yeah.
Get
I
a
get two
cleaner.
copies of it, but I'll get send it to your dad. You
Thank
can
you.
have them for free.
Happy summer
Lean
holidays
fit.
Yeah.
in the meantime, and we'll see you all again soon. Thanks for watching and listening. And also, subscribe wherever it is you normally get YouTube and your podcasts. We're a little bit out of
Yeah,
practice.
well, I'm not out of practice. You're out of practice.
I'm out of
You don't
practice.
understand technology.
See you all again soon. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening.
You've been watching the House of Rugby on Joe.